Hi, Mermaid Junkies. How are you? I am so happy to be with you today. Do you like my cute headband? Isn't it adorable? This is Mermaid Junkie. Okay, so something that is so thrilling and exciting that I want to talk about because I love human behavior, right? Is I had an experience occur last week, and it was also like a bit of a continuation of a particular subject that gets me going, gets me hot and bothered under the collar, it gets me riled up, it gets me feeling all kinds of emotions. And so I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect opportunity to do another video, okay? And it is on the heels of unconditional love and conditional love. And what is the difference between that? You guys, I think that you guys know, well, you guys know that I had experienced last year with this whole, it was kind of like an epiphany situation that happened with me, with my dad, and him giving Jeffrey and I a truck, and then he ended up taking the truck back. And it was this big ordeal. It's been 7.5 months, I've yet to still have any communication with my dad. And that's not what I'm going to necessarily talk about, but it is the interpersonal relationships with how that we deal with different things that occur in our lives. Because if you guys are anything like me, we're always going to have interpersonal relationships, right? That's the main communicative aspect of our entire lives, is that we have relationships with people, everyone. You can be a law of attraction person all day long until the cows come home, but you're still always going to have to deal with people. We have to deal with people, we have to learn from people, we have to understand people, we have to have empathy for people. You don't have to do all this shit, but I'm telling you, like, if you do, it's more, you're more of a happy and contented person within. Like, loving people and accepting people for how they are totally has to do with the fact of whether or not you love and accept yourself. And so when I first began this channel, I thought, oh my God, I mean, I can go back and look at videos. A lot of times I don't like to go look back at my videos because I'm like headed towards the future. I don't want to focus on that. But I bet you if I were to go back and look at all these videos, I would be able to notice that I was completely insecure. I was afraid of what people were going to say to me. I was afraid of what people would think about me. And I'm a very hypersensitive person. This is very true. I will always be that way. But I also know that there's a way that you can direct that focused emotion, like use it to the better of my advantage, right? Which is getting my voice out, helping other people, women and children especially. Like, if I can get to the women to help you guys understand, and men too, don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting men at all, because I know there's a lot of people that watch my channel that are men. But what I'm saying is, if I can get you to love the hell out of yourself and have self-love and respect and appreciation and all that kind of thing, I know that that's going to really have a rippling effect without the world, without the universe. And that's the only way that we are going to be able to truly, truly love and accept ourselves. I mean, love other people and accept other people in life, if we can really, really love ourselves. Because there is no competition. When you really love yourself and you have this great sense of security within your internal being, you pay less attention and don't give a damn about what other people are doing in life, right? Now, I know you're always gonna have those moments because you can't be in alignment, like listening, like, standing in the airport on one leg, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't live like that. Once again, you can live like that if you choose to, but you know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? Okay, so getting back to this conditional and unconditional love, right? And so when my dad took that truck, like, this was kind of like a rippling effect of these different things that kept manifesting in my life. And I'm like sitting there thinking, at first I was like, oh, everything's wonderful and everyone likes me. You know what I mean? And then you start to notice, like, when you're getting traction, like either you're getting traction where you're confident in yourself. Look at my hair, you guys, I look like Annie. or you start to become like successful financially, or you become successful, you know, in your career or in your love life. I mean, people are always going to target you. So you might as well just get that out of your fucking head that it doesn't matter. Oh, I don't care what people think. Like, that's the most thing. I mean, that's one thing that I've learned about myself is like, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks about me. You know, and I'm sure you guys have heard that said by other people around your circumference of influencers, you know. Or you hear people all the time say, like me, like, I don't give a damn what anybody, yeah, I actually do care what people think about me, but I'm so in my own head that I don't care as much about what my husband thinks, my ex-husband, my children, my parents, my pastor, my ex-pastor, my old bishop, old church member friends, Christians, you know, that claim like, Raquel, you're rough around the edges and you curse too much. I don't care. Ultimately, I'm not going to care, and I'm not going to silence myself for these people, because you're always going to have people that are not going to agree with you 100%. There's always going to be someone that's mouthing off and giving you hell. But you know what? I have learned in the last couple of months, especially in the last 2 years, you guys, that instead of feeling victimized, like, oh, I mean, and the reason I'm speaking like this is because I'm speaking from my own experience, is that I used to think like, even though it's true that they're projecting the sense of like anger and hostility towards you, it also it mostly has to do with the fact that they are insecure. And so you can sit there and say, oh, I can't stand Raquel, but really it's not really about me. What it's about is maybe you have a dick of a husband and you can't stand him, but you're projecting it onto me because maybe he cheated with your best friend, or somebody that looks like me, or somebody that has red hair, or somebody that's hyperactive and talks a lot, right? Maybe I trigger that shit in that person, and then they say, oh, I'm gonna target this girl because I don't like her, or she's this, or she's that, right? And so then what happens is, instead of taking a look at yourself and your own dumb shit, that you're like, no, maybe you have an issue because you weren't loved enough as a child because you have daddy issues. Maybe you were molested, and then you have man issues, and you're always seeking attention from men and getting ways of like going and fucking them. Okay, maybe that's what your issue is. It's not me. Dude, it's not me. And so if we can get to that point to where we're like, okay, it's really not about me, but then you're also like, with law of attraction people, you're on the cusp of, well, it's always about the other person. So you can sit back there and be judgmental, because that's exactly what you have the capability of doing when you practice the law of attraction, because then you're like, well, it's not about me, it's about them, you know. Do you like that accent? But what I'm saying is, the person is mere reflecting something. There's something within me, like I was just saying. Maybe it's my red hair. Maybe it's the way that I am. Maybe you were, cheated on with a red hair. I mean, something always is going to trigger that particular emotional trauma within you, okay? And so how you deal with it is what we want to get to, right? Because this is all about self-love. And so if I can get that woman to maybe listen, and like, maybe I can get her to think like, oh, holy shit, maybe Raquel is onto something. Maybe I might need to look into this. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people that can't handle me. They can't handle me. I talk too fucking much. I talk too fucking fast. I curse too much. I am all over the place. I'm this way and that way, but that's who I am. That's who I am. And so in snippets, maybe you can handle me. In a 38-minute video, maybe you're like, fuck no, I can't handle this girl. She's like way too much for me. And once again, that's okay and that's cool, because I've gotten to the point to where there's gonna be people that know that I'm fucking true. I'm telling you like it is, whether you wanna hear it or not. You don't have to hear it, because this is my channel, so you can click off, right? But there's also gonna be a lot of people that actually get jarred, which will cause someone intellectually and emotionally that will trigger responses in them. And that's the way a lot of people learn. That's the way I learn. I'm a hard knocks kind of girl. Like, I tell it to you the way that I like it to be told to me. Now, I am sensitive, and sometimes I can just take a step back. I mean, there's been times that people are very, very, kid gloves with me, but there's no way to predict how I'm going to take something. I mean, I remember my mom saying something to me one time, and it was the total truth, hard facts, but I was pissed. I mean, I couldn't tell you, I didn't talk to her for 2 freaking weeks. I was pissed as hell. But you know what? Actually, when I went back to it and I wasn't like freaking that, F out, I was able to think back and methodically understand, like, okay, I mean, I can dish it out, so I can take it too, right? So a lot of people learn that way, but it just depends on your the infrastructure of the way you were raised, the way that you were dealt with. Maybe you were, held with kid gloves, and maybe you can't handle that kind of stuff. And so probably my channel isn't for people that are like, super hypersensitive or get offended so easily, because I mean, I'm not gonna censor myself for just, the 1 or 2% that are just like, oh my, she's so inappropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have time for that crap. Like, I'm in the mode of like getting shit done. There's so many women out there that I'm getting messages from that are like either shit women or get off the pot. I know that sounds gross, like when I say that, I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, stop giving excuses for why you hate your life and just start looking at the fact that there's some really ground-rooted, deep internal issues that you got. And it's okay, dude. I mean, like, it's okay, girls, that we have issues, and guys. Everybody freaking has them. But if you can learn to embrace it and go, oh my God, it's totally cool, I'm fucked up. Okay, totally cool, right? If that's just another part and another aspect of you saying, you know what, who cares? I love myself. Like, so once you expose yourself with like the knowledge that you're like, yeah, you're a free-for-all. Like, yeah, I have issues. I'm a walking contradiction. I say this and say that and do this and do that, and sometimes I fuck up and sometimes I don't cuss. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna be appropriate and try to remember that girls may be watching this. But you know what? I mean, I that's just who I am. Like, if that's the way I am, that's the way I am. I'm not gonna sit there and censor myself anymore. Anyway, okay, so now that I got that out of the way, can you guys tell I was sick for 2 weeks? Like, you know that thing that you see on the news, like kids are dying and like people are dying from the flu and all that shit? Yeah, that totally was happening at the Staffordshire cottage. That's why I've been gone so long. But so just when I was thinking I was over the sickness, and then like 2 days later, and I'm like, oh, pumped and ready to go, video time, like, oh my God, I was sick again. And so anyway, back to the unconditional, conditional love. So this is what started, okay? So when my dad took this truck, dude, like, I don't hate my dad. Like, I love my dad, and actually I'm appreciative for him being an ass, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'll be the first to admit, like, if I was right in front of his face, I would say, you were an ass. And I don't want to go into detail about why I think my dad's, and be analytical and try to figure out why, because I already intentionally know, but this was a teaching and learning experience for me, and it just helped to re-trigger, not help to re-trigger, but it helped me to fine-tune some shit that I had not apparently gotten through, like resentment with men. Okay, and so this began to happen again, and then I started to realize, like, something happened just a few days ago, and I'm like, okay, so not only do I still resent men to a certain degree, I resent women. And where do you think I got that from? Unconditional and conditional love from a mother. Okay, and so, like, again, I was gonna say, I'm going to preface that this in no way means that I hate my mother, because I don't. I adore my mother. I think she's wonderful. She's the most sweetest, kind-hearted, most kind-hearted human being on the planet, like that I've ever known in my entire life, and I desire to be like her in so many ways. Now, on the caveat of that, there's so many things that I am polar opposite in my mom that I do not strive to live like at all. And one of them is being subjected and feeling shut down and pressured to suffocated by a man, okay? So this conditional, unconditional love is where it came up, and I started realizing that like something happened the last couple of days, and it just re-triggered this whole experience of me thinking like, oh my gosh, like I totally resent women in a degree. And maybe that's why, you guys, that I like hound you, or I seem a little abrasive and harsh with you, especially you mothers, okay? Because I'm a mother of 4, and I've always lived by this particular like rule, is that I love my children, love them. And I'm a most caring. I mean, I am very affectionate, very, very sensitive and warm-hearted and nurturing out the ass, okay, with my kids. But there is the flip side of me, which I learned from growing up in a harsh, unpleasant childhood and environment, that you give all of that, which I got from my mother, which was a strong attribute that I love, is that she was very physically affectionate and showed me love and told me, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, I mean, she made me feel like I was the most beautiful girl on the planet, even though I had issues, you know, in high school, and I was and in middle school, I was bullied because I was ugly and unattractive and wore glasses and I had red hair and freckles. Like, nobody fucking wanted to touch me. You know, not touch me, but you know what I mean? Touch me, like be friends with me, or, you know, all the boys were mean as hell, pulling my hair, talked about me horribly, you know, just, I mean, ridiculed me because I was so dog ugly. I wasn't the blonde, blue-eyed with big tit girl. Like, I developed later, and I was a nerd. And I'm still a nerd. Like, I'm totally a nerd, but I embrace that, right? So I realized that my mom was very like, but there was that other aspect of her that I was like, oh my God. And it stemmed from the fact that I will share this experience with you about being unconditional love and conditional love, which I do keep saying I'm going to go back to that. But I guess there's like this preempt of the story that I wanted to get to, which is, that when I was 12 years old, and this is, I'm talking about divorce, okay? I'm talking about divorce, and like I saw something that triggered me the other day, and a couple of days ago, and this is what I'm going to talk about, is that there was this particular lady, and she was talking about like how, like, oh, I don't think I could divorce my husband, or I've been with him 30 years or 17 years, and I just, maybe I need to wait until the kids get older. And like, the kids are like in their friggin' teens anyway. It's like, okay, what do you, I mean, I understand, like, you're saying, oh, well, they're 9 years old and they're so impressionable. Yeah, they are impressionable, but you know what? You need to be the kind of person that the impression they're gonna get is that, like me at 12 years old, my mom had finally taken so much from my dad's abuse, right, that she moved and left him for 10 months. And my mom was independent. She got a job, and she was working at like this daycare center. We were living in my grandmother's house, and I was enjoying, bringing ducks back to life and enjoying life on the little farm or whatever. And I was, I loved it, actually. I really loved it. And I would pray every single night, because this is kind of like when I was religious back in the day, is that when I was like, got saved, and I'm like, thank you, God, because I never want to go back there again. Like, she was going to divorce him because the abuse had gotten so bad, right? And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's 10 months later, and I was happy as could be. Like, I was like, oh, I never want to go there again. Like, it was a horrible experience for me. Like, all I remember, and I don't know if it's because maybe I was the oldest child, and I'm a girl too, so it was maybe that sounds kind of critical that boys don't take sensitivity. So I take that back, because boys can be just as sensitive and feel such pain just like me. So nix and void that. But I never wanted to go back, and so when my mother decided that she was going to go back to my dad, and you know, she's still with my dad to this day. I mean, he doesn't drink alcohol, but there's still those underpinnings of mental abuse and things like that, that I actually think that my mom did me a disservice and my brothers for staying with my dad. And it's not because I don't love my dad. It's just that I think my mom should love herself more than she loves my dad. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that this is a very huge, massive thing going on in the world today, especially with women. And that, and I'm not saying you got to put on your jeans and be a, you know, tough hard ass and cut your hair, you know, above your, I'm not saying that. Like, I still think we can be pretty and delicate and all that kind of stuff, but also be like badasses. Like, no, you're being a dick. I don't have to put up with your dumb shit, your affairs all the time, and you're, you know, we're arguing, or we'll go 2 weeks and don't talk. I mean, I'm like speaking to you women that are like thinking you're doing this service to your children, like, oh, I don't want a divorce because it's going to be too hard, whatever. Like, do you not think that this is hard now? Are you just so used to the being uncomfortable and in pain and like agony and fucking hating your life that you're willing to go, oh, it'll be okay, it'll all work itself out? And it will work itself out. But let me just tell you, ladies and gents, that I'm a walking example of the fact that if you love yourself just like I loved myself enough to leave a fucking marriage after 25 years, that I have never fucking been happier. Like, I love bringing you guys these videos because I'm like, if I can fucking do it with 2 suitcases and walked out with 4 kids and being married for 25, but being with a person for 30 years. So I was with this dude since I was 14 years old, okay? So do you see what happened to me? 2 years later, I meet up with my ex, which has the same, because it's a law of attraction. Remember this, girls. Because if you're doing this shit now, your daughters are gonna go find somebody just like your fucking husband. Let me just promise you that. It's law of attraction. It's a universal law. You can't get away from it. It's kind of like gravity. You can't fucking get away from it. You don't need to teach gravity. You don't need, I mean, you never learned that in school, right? You never learned about gravity. Like, now you're gonna go up, you know, if you walk out of it. No, it's something that is, bam, it's a fact. It's going to happen. I promise you it will happen. So don't think that you're gonna, like, you know, if you're wondering, why is my daughter dating this dumbass and he's doing this and doing that? Why don't you take a look in the mirror, because you're doing it. Apparently you did it somewhere, or your mama did it and you were raised by your mother, so you repeated her pattern and now you're giving it to your child. So let's get these girls to be healthy. And the only way we're gonna do it, women and men, is to get your ass healthy mentally. And that means the basic foundation of anything is love. To love yourself, right? That's how we come to earth. To be selfish, to think about ourselves. And you know what? It sounds ungodlike. If you want to use that, go ahead, term me that all you want. But I can promise you that I'm probably more in alignment than 98% of people that sit there and talk about how I'm ungodly and I'm selfish. You know, you just need to change that paradigm of when you hear selfish, you automatically think it's a negative thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, here and now, that if you are selfish and you start putting yourself first, shit's going to change, and fast. I mean, I don't have any of the people in my life that I used to have that would like take and fucking take from me. All they wanted to do was take, because you know what? I was insecure. I didn't love myself, so I allowed anybody to do anything to me, treat me any old way you want, and I'll just brush it off and say, oh, that's what Jesus would do. No, Jesus wouldn't fucking do that. No, Jesus wouldn't. And yeah, I'm putting Jesus in the same sentence with a cuss word. Big deal. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Jesus wasn't always in alignment. I know everybody's going to go like, shudder. He was perfect. No, he wasn't. It was this... No, he wasn't, okay? Jesus, I mean, what do you think makes sense when he was in the tabernacle and he was throwing shit everywhere, right? No, he wasn't in alignment then. He was pissed off. And so everybody that has this cliche of like, you know, whatever, I'm here to break the barriers and say, no, maybe you can look at something differently. Maybe what I might be saying might not be dumb shit. Maybe I know what the hell I'm talking about to some degree. Or maybe I'm here to shake you up and to go, maybe you need to look at things differently. Maybe you need to have a paradigm shift. And that's the only way you're going to get out of your head. Because belief systems, let me just tell you guys, you start from an infant child, right? And we're teaching our little girls this and boys. But mostly if you're a woman and you're teaching, I shouldn't say mostly, I mean, times are changing. But women have that aspect of themselves that they're the nurturers in the family. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the humanity part of it. Is that's the makeup. That's the DNA of a mother. But from the time you start teaching these little girls and little boys to be a certain way, and you're insecure as hell within yourself, and your mom was insecure or your dad was insecure and they're dumbasses, well, don't you think that you're going to get all that shit because they're going to pass it on to you? And it's no huge fault of their own. I'm just saying that that's the way life is. I'm not faulting my mom for that. The only thing I'm faulting women for, and maybe my mother or my dad or whoever in my life, is I'm faulting them for not putting themselves first and not saying, you know what, maybe there is another way. Maybe what I've been taught all this time, maybe my mom was freaking insecure. Maybe my grandmother was a cuckoo bird, which she was, and that's okay. I don't fault her for that. Everybody has their shit. And so I know I'm like really high pitched and high strung as fuck, but I'm just saying like that just triggered something in me. And I'm like, when it comes down to it, you guys, it's not about like the unconditional love and conditional love. Like you people are teaching your kids like, I remember my aunt, and this was like freaking years, over a decade ago, and I've been preaching this avidly since then, right? Is that when I created Mermaid Junkie Academy, which is a curriculum, and I'm going full throttle with it this summer, and it's programs and curriculums that we're teaching children, you know, especially women and girls, to love themselves, to have self-love, because we're teaching these kids to love themselves based on conditions. And the prime example of that is that when I was young, I'll use myself as an example, and then I'll use my aunt as an example as well, because there was an issue that happened. That's really what triggered me into learning more about conditional love and unconditional love. Because a lot of people might be Googling that shit and not even really understanding what the hell it means. And basically what it is it's very much like what it sounds, is that when you love a child, most people love their kids on conditions. And they don't know that they're you don't know you're subconsciously doing it, but how much more do you need to know that it will backfire every single time when you love somebody on a condition basis. When you don't love somebody unconditionally, you don't love yourself unconditionally, so you can't love other people. But what happens is, this is an example, okay? So my aunt has these children, they grow up, she has all these issues, she's a single mom trying to make it ends meet or whatever. There's that whole dynamic of going to see their dads, blah, 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 whatever, right? Well, she raises her kids and they don't turn out, by society standards, they turned out to be like a drug addict, a drug dealer, like really a criminal kind of, and, you know, in trouble with the law all the time, didn't give a shit about their own kids, would just have kids and just abandon them, like never paid child support, that kind of cliche thing, okay? So she basically and I said something to her. I said, you can't love kids on conditions, because they know that. Kids can read shit. You can try to think you're going to fake it all day long, but if kids feel that they are loved on conditions, it's going to backfire on you. And then you're going to wonder, like, why do they resent me? Why do they truthfully deep down hate my guts? It's because you never loved them unconditionally. They always had to perform for you. They either had to make good grades or don't get in trouble with the law, or don't work in that job, or you're going to show distaste for their lifestyle. Oh, dear goodness. Oh, you sleep around, you're a whore. And then they can feel that shit. Little kids start to feel that when they're in their mother's stomach, okay? Everything's vibrational. So if you think that you're like pulling the wool over, oh, they're children, they don't understand. Oh, the hell they don't. They understand more when they're children because they have less of a worldly influence on them than when they're getting older. By the time they hit 8 years old, you can freaking forget it. So they've already started that really deep sense of a belief system within them. And so you wonder why they're going to end up in prison? Because they know you didn't really fucking love them. You love them on a condition, but as soon as they start showing their ass in some degree, you're just like, disconnect from them. Oh, we're just going to act like we don't see them. We're going to pretend they don't exist, or, whatever. But if you unconditionally love yourself, it starts from there, you guys. It starts from here, in your freaking gut. It starts from in your gut. You can't love anybody else. So you can fake it all day long. Oh, I'm going to fake it till I make it. No, you can't fake that shit. Everything's genuine. So you might want to look at that as well. I'm giving y'all a big old task to do. And I don't want you to think that I'm being harsh or mean to you. I'm just telling you like it is. And I feel like, this huff and fluff is like, everybody can do that. But you know what? Half the time, what you're listening to is bullshit, because people don't want to get involved in the fact that I'm challenging that maybe the way I believe about God might not be so bad of an idea. I mean, I am a million times happier now that I am, but I'm very spiritual. Like, I'm more spiritual than anybody I know. I talk about God, live God in my mind all the freaking time. I might use universal, universe, source, but basically what I mean is God. I mean, I'm very, very spiritual. Now, religion? No, I'm not religious. But you look at a lot of our world, like the phenomenons of spiritual gurus in the world that made a difference in life, they were pretty much the same way. A lot of people don't want to touch that. They want to like take half quotes and like, oh, look at, let's dress this up and put pretty stuff around it and make it all flowery and shit. But if you were to really dive deep and to look into all these spiritual leaders and big, huge people that made such a big stand in the world, that they were very, very spiritual and not necessarily so much religious. And so I'm just here to give a different perspective on it, and just to maybe like, nudge you a little bit to kind of look at things differently. Like, maybe don't give your kid a hard time if he's even a drug addict right now. Maybe what you need to do is stop bailing him out of and putting him in rehab. Maybe what you need to do is let him get his ass on the street for 2 weeks and be homeless and give him nothing. And let's see how fast his ass cleans up then. Either that or he'll die of a drug overdose. But you have to be willing, if you love yourself enough, you know that they're not going to hell. Hell is your own state of mind. And so if you cannot fear, because that's what everybody is freaking driven by, especially mothers, driven by fear. It's not your job to freaking save your kids. You are not Jesus Christ. You are not God or whatever these religious people, are. You are not their savior. Stop trying to be some martyr and think you're going to save your kids. That's not your freaking job. You didn't come here to save your kids. I mean, yeah, and that sounds a little bit much, but it's like, yeah, I let my kid go homeless for 2.5 weeks. And I can tell you right now, guess what happened? Because I put in the work as a mother when they were young, drilling it into their heads. They knew I loved them unconditionally. I didn't put conditions on their love. So if one's going to get on to drugs or whatever, I'm going to love that kid back. I'm going to love that kid back. I'm going to keep going and reaching for him when he's homeless on the street and not act like I don't know that kid. And that just makes me cry, because I know what that feels like. I've seen that with people that, how do you think that woman at the grocery store is begging for $3 and, she turned the streets and she's fucking people to get for her drug habit. It's because she fucking didn't have a life. I mean, can you imagine? Maybe her mom's a fuck up. Maybe that's what happened. And so stop judging these people when you see them. Stop judging people, because you're only judging yourself, because it's not our place to judge these people. It's our place to love them. And that's the only way we're going to change the world, is if we love them. I mean, that's all I ever wanted, was to be loved, not abused, you know? So I'm no different than anybody else. I'm no different than anybody else. And so, no, I'm not gonna say, oh, they're a piece of shit. Look, they're a drug addict. No, I'm not gonna fucking say that, because I bet they're so, drug addicts, they're the most probably aligned when they're not high, because they're sensitive spirits, and that's the only way they know to get back into the path of least resistance, is to get high, because the pain is too much. So you fucking look for an outlet. Why is it different that you're in a controllable society that people can go and drink? Because that's acceptable by society, right? That's acceptable. And it's even acceptable now to get a mugshot. But why has it become not acceptable once you hit that line of like, well, now I have to cut my ties with you? Because you are looking at yourself as if you're a reflection, because you're insecure. Because you're insecure, and you think, if I associate with this person or this child that's a drug addict or a whore or homeless, that there is going to be a reflection on your ass. That you are insecure because you can't stand alone and say, you know what? I don't fucking care what you think about me. I'm going to love this person, especially your own freaking kid. But if you're not healthy as a mother, you can never go there. You can't go there. So that's why we need to get to ourselves first, you guys. We need to live true to ourselves, and we need to love ourselves unconditionally. That's the only way. Then we can outwardly work on that. You know what I'm saying? Like loving other people unconditionally with no conditions on them. Oh, if you clean up and you go to rehab and you do this, or you stop stealing from me, then I'll love you. Then you can come back into the group. Then you can come back into the fold, so to speak, right? I mean, you see that in religion all the time. It's like you have to play the part. Now play the part and you'll get what you want. We'll support you, but you got to play the part. And it's bullshit, because it's not real. And so I'm here to be real with you. And yeah, I would hate to know how many F-bombs I used, but I am so wanting us as women. I mean, we have got to get on the same page, women. We have got to start opening these cavities of our souls up and get to what is our freaking problem, and stop blaming everybody else. Blaming the ex-wife, blaming the dumb ex-husband, blaming our kids, blaming our parents, blaming the government. Oh, it's because we have Trump for a president. No, it isn't. Maybe it's because you're living with a dumbass. Maybe it's because your mom didn't do what she should have, and you're trying to blame someone else for your issues. No, look within yourself and stop blaming other people, you know? And when you can do that, it's totally freeing. It's freeing. I mean, we're so free in this country, we can choose bondage. Think about that. We can choose bondage if we want to. We're so freaking free, okay? So stop blaming other people. Let's start looking at what's going on within us. Look how red my neck is because I'm so heated about this subject. Let's start loving ourselves and loving our children. I mean, that's the only way we're going to make a stand in this world, because it comes from us first, and then we got to let it bleed out into our children, right? When we're raising these beautiful souls that love everybody unconditionally because they're secure, we can conquer the freaking world, is what we can do. And so I'm just highly elevated, and that's why I started Mermaid Junkie Academy, is because I'm using a methodology with this, and it's an all-encompassing curriculum. It's mind, body, spirit. We got to teach them when they're young to be reliant, to learn that we don't need money to make us happy. You don't need to have handouts. That our children are capable. They are so powerful. They're such powerful creators that they can do any freaking thing they want. They want to be a firefighter, or the president of the United States, or they want to go to the moon. This is not cliche like, oh, when I'm a child. Have you ever noticed that when children are little, that they think they can freaking conquer the world? Because they can. But we as parents, because we're insecure, teach them that there's limits to our abilities and capabilities, and there are no limits. Everything is limitless, and we have to get back to that. We have to paradigm shift this whole freaking thing. We got to level it, level the playing field, and that starts with self-love. So I hope you like this. It's 40 minutes, but I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not even going to edit this thing. So I just want you to know that is what's been on my radar this past 2 weeks while I've been sick and thinking about this and doing research and more of learning about little kids and things that are happening with, I'll get emails and stuff. And so this is what's on the precipice of how we change the world. Okay, and so I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to give a mermaid her fans, subscribe to my channel below and share it and like it and give me a thumbs up. Thanks so much. I love you guys. And as always, I'm yours until my next swim. Ciao. Bye.